What I will say, in contrast to what Israel's dealing with on its borders with Gaza or the West Bank, Iran has this moderate middle class population that formally, like I'm seeing, there's beneath the surface there is a separation of the Iranian regime
100%.
versus the population.
Well, I think
and even during October 7th, you saw demonstrations in Iran, in Iranian soccer fields saying they refused to boot, like step on the flag.
Well, you have a difference here between so this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
These are a little bit older societies, older Islamic societies that experienced freedom, had a taste of freedom, and now they have this Islamic regime coming in with this new idea. Well, it's an old idea, but a newish idea of terrorism and world domination, and that Iranians, many of them, have prescribed to a little bit more of a Western concept.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have actually, and you have this in Lebanon as well, because you have a society there which is a little bit more westernized in its ideals, right? It's a Christian bastion in the middle of the Middle East. Most people don't know this about Lebanon. And then they have Hezbollah inside, which is a terrorist organization. They're different. The Hezbollah is not part of the Lebanese government. They're two completely different things. And you have that in Iran as well. You have Iran, you have this Islamic regime in between. And there's a lot of work from within the country to kind of take over and remove these terrorist entities. The only people supporting these terrorist entities are the Westerners. It's unbelievable.
In what sense?
Is that the Western people who are like,
protesters.
yeah, the Western protesters who are like, you know what, Hezbollah is doing God's work, blah, blah, blah. You know, they should be attacking these countries. When every single person in the Middle East is screaming, well, not every person, but the majority of the people in the countries who experience a sense of freedom are screaming to remove these entities and are saying that they are dangerous. And we have a whole bunch of Iranian influencers online who have been saying this. Elika's, and she's a legend.
My
and
God. Did you know about her before today? I saw the tweet yesterday.
Yeah, I did.
You're plugged
I met
in.
her a few weeks ago. She's
My
amazing.
She's the person I sent you.
Yeah, she's amazing. What's she saying? She's saying, you guys don't care about our narrative. You've got a Western narrative and you're coming at us as if we're speaking the same language. We're telling you as Middle Easterners who have experienced both what we want, and you guys don't care because it doesn't align with what you have to say. So there is this duality, and I think there are probably a lot of people within Gaza who don't like the way Hamas are doing things. That being said, they have been fed and they have been trained, and I often say this, if Hamas has succeeded in training, in convincing the entire world, they probably succeeded in convincing the people in their schools, okay? But the Hamas, they've created this idea, and you can separate Hamas out of this, that they need Palestine. Okay, and this is different. This is different to the world takeover. Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah are actually not all in the same. They're not all the same on the same team. They're on different parts of the Islamic regime. So it's interesting. Anyway, we can get into that another time.
Hezbollah, Iran are Shia, and what, Hamas is Sunni? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
I never got that they take support from Iran, but they're Sunni sect.
Because Iran have supported them because it's a good propaganda war for them, because the whole world's obsessed with Palestine, but they're not on the same team at all. They don't want the same things.
If Israel was not there, they would kill each other. Sorry.
So it's interesting because the Sunnis and Shiites have this like long-term strategy, but Hamas has this very specifically Palestinian strategy where they want to take over Palestine. So the most of Gazans might disagree with Hamas and how they do things. Not most of them, but some of them might disagree with it. But at the end of the day, they've been indoctrinated to believe that they deserve to have Israel. They might just believe that they should do it in a different way. They shouldn't do it to the extreme terroristic way that Hamas does it. So you have a lot of internal conflicts, like we have here. You know, there are internal conflicts. It's nuanced.
I just heard an interview where a Palestinian was saying, if you read polls, it says like a third of Gazans disagree with they disagree with October 7th. And he was explaining it's not that they don't think October 7th was good, they just don't like the way they did it.
Correct.
Or they should have done it at a different time. But there's this like Arab way of speaking
Torah was not cool.
where you can reject something fully, like outwardly, but inwardly have a totally different opinion.
100%. I mean,
so
that's
he's saying
a big part of
when you
Islam.
read polls, they don't necessarily express what we think they express.
Because, by the way, polls are a Western idea. They're not a Middle Eastern concept. Like, what, are you going to say something against Hamas? Hamas going to murder your children? Of course you're not going to say anything. That's like, you know what that's like? It's exactly like when you see in Russia, like, oh, we did a democratic vote. When every single one of us knows it was not a democratic vote. What is that? It's, oh, if we just wrap this up in Western, then they'll believe it. They'll fall for it. And anyone who has a
strong leader, that's all I can say. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but you know, like at the end of the day, anyone who has a sense of what Russia really is, understand it's not a democracy. Let's not play games, even if they pretend to be.
Well, is there hope? Do you see hope in this idea that there were Arab states, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, that assisted Israel in knocking down this strike, even if their incentives they're more anti-Iran than they are pro-Israel?
Of course.
You know.
I think it's a big deal, and it's something that I actually speak about in my speeches.
Mm.
This is kind of the context that I give people. I try and explain this whole back end story of who Saudi Arabia is and what's going on with Hezbollah and Iran and what actually is the bigger picture, because it's quite hard to understand. But Saudi Arabia has an agenda of creating a peaceful Middle East for many different reasons.
Mm.
Okay, they have an agenda like that. So what to them,
Sounds pretty good.
Hamas is an embarrassment. Yeah, so
like this-
that the whole world believes that Islam is peaceful, and then
It's
the
the
whole world becomes.
2030
Oh,
plan or
you're
something?
suspect of that agenda?
It's like the 2030 plan or something.
Oh.
MBS's thing. Is that what? Is that? What
I
you're
don't
talking about?
actually know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, I think whatever. Never.
There was a
mind.
Okay.
line. They wanted to draw the city made out of a line. That's a different thing.
No, I think MBS has like maybe it's 2030, 2040, but he has like a goal of like reshaping the Middle East with maybe Saudi Arabia as
So
the
Saudi
center.
Arabia are looking to really become like the peaceful leaders of the Middle East,
Okay.
and to them, something like Iran, Hamas, these terrorist organizations that set their reputation back a bajillion years, because they know there's a difference, but they also know that the most of the world looks at them and says, "Oh, it's the same thing, Iran, Saudi Arabia." You know, no one wants this terrorist, maniacal Islamic regime ruling the Middle East or the world. Most of the thinking countries that have done a huge amount of work to remove radical Islam from within their societies are not interested in it. It's the same reason why they don't want to take these Palestinians in. It's the same reason. They just don't want terrorism overrunning their countries. They've built beautiful countries and societies, and they've worked really hard at it. So to them, Iran is a threat to Jordan and Saudi Arabia in the same way that it's a threat to Israel. Just Israel is the first on the line. But it's a threat to them, 100%. And it's great that we created some kind of alliance with them yesterday, because we've realized, it's like the Game of Thrones, right? You have the ice
It
people.
feels that way.
The ice people, right? All the end, the ice people.
The people north of the wall?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ice people. We all have to convene
Ice people?
together.
Is that what they called them
Whatever,
in
I don't
They
know
had
what
a
it's
better
called.
name for them.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
But like
yeah,
the
of course.
Skywalkers
The
or something.
zombies.
No,
the
no,
ice
The-
no,
people.
no, no.
ice-
The White
The
Walkers.
White Walkers.
That
White
wasn't
Walkers.
them.
At the end, there's this idea that it's the same one enemy, and everyone who
the
hates
Night
each
The
King.
other
Wildlings
unite.
or the White Walkers?
No, the Night King and the White Walkers.
the
Yeah.
creepy ones.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't
know. The zombies.
White
The zombies.
Walkers.
The zombies.
White Walkers.
What's the whole idea at the end of Game of Thrones? Right? We all just have to
It was
come
the
together. We
shittiest
hate
end
each
of the
other.
seasons
wasn't a good
ever. So
ending.
I don't
I'm
know.
not saying it's a good ending. but
The idea
it's
was
the
that
same
Bran
ending.
was useless.
It was
Wait,
terrible.
I need to
ending,
go
admit
into a
it.
pigeon
It was
now.
really, really sad.
Oh.
The end of Game of
Just
Thrones
awful.
was really
Hey,
sad.
I
we
can't
all
do
agree
jack
on
shit.
that. We can all agree on
We
that.
can all agree in Game
The
of Thrones.
ending and-
What was the idea
yeah.
though? I forgot. They created the White Walkers. to
Right,
stop
these
the
White
humans.
Walkers come and they're coming to take over the whole of society. So all these people who have been enemies for all these years have to band together to
Mm-hmm.
fight against those people. It's not that all the different politics within Game of Thrones suddenly disappears. It doesn't. But we have to band together because
to
there's
stop
a bigger
the one
threat.
thing that's really trying to destroy us all.
Correct, and that's Iran.
Right.
Let's just Islamic regime within Iran. Let's be careful after Elika's video.
Oh, what did she? How did she
The
describe it?
Islamic regime versus Iran, right?
Yeah.
Most of Iran wants to have the freedom that they had.
Right. When Shmuel B'Tach was making his
Oh
rants
my
online,
God,
I
don't
thought
get
he
me
was the
started.
White Walker coming through.